Welcome to Daily Progress Gear, where we explore the deepest corners of the human soul and the profound lessons hidden within. In a quiet little house, on a quiet little street, lived a woman named Martha. For Martha, each day felt like a carbon copy of the last. The sun would rise, painting the sky in brilliant colors she barely noticed. Her small world was confined to the four walls of her home, a space filled with memories but empty of presence. The silence was her only constant companion, a heavy blanket that muffled the vibrant sounds of the world outside. She would watch from her window as neighbors bustled by. Families laughed, and children played. It felt like watching a movie of a life she wasn't part of. She was a spectator, invisible, and the feeling of loneliness had become a permanent resident in her heart. One Tuesday morning, something shifted. As she watched the mailman make his usual rounds, looking tired and hot under the summer sun, a thought sparked within her. It was a simple, quiet thought. She remembered the lemonade she used to make, the kind with just the right amount of sweetness and a hint of mint from her garden. On impulse, she went to the kitchen. She squeezed lemons, stirred in sugar, and plucked fresh mint leaves. Soon, a pitcher of ice-cold lemonade sat on her counter, beads of condensation trickling down its side. With a trembling hand, she poured a tall glass, added a straw, and carried it outside. She waited by her mailbox, feeling a flutter of nervousness. When the mailman, a young man named Tom, approached, she held out the glass. "It looked like a hot day," she said, her voice a little rusty from disuse. Tom stopped, surprised. A wide, genuine smile spread across his face. "Wow," he said, taking the glass. "Thank you so much. This is exactly what I needed." He took a long sip and sighed with relief. "You've made my day, ma'am." For the first time in a long time, Martha felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer sun. She had been seen. That small act of kindness was like planting a seed. The next day, she noticed her neighbor, a young mother named Sarah, struggling to carry groceries while trying to manage her two toddlers. Martha didn't hesitate. She walked over and offered to watch the kids on the porch while Sarah unloaded her car. Sarah was so grateful, she almost cried. They chatted for a few minutes, and Martha learned the names of the two little ones, Leo and Mia. The following week, she baked a batch of her famous oatmeal raisin cookies and left them on Sarah's doorstep with a little note. Sarah later knocked on her door, not just to thank her, but to invite her over for a cup of coffee. Slowly, Martha's world began to expand beyond her four walls. She started baking a little extra every time she was in the kitchen. A loaf of banana bread for the elderly gentleman across the street who rarely left his house. A jar of homemade jam for the new family that had just moved in. Each small offering was a bridge, a connection to the lives that had once seemed so distant. She found herself learning names, hearing stories, and sharing laughter. The quiet little house on the quiet little street was no longer so quiet. It was filled with the aroma of baking, the occasional knock on the door, and the sound of Martha's own voice, now confident and warm. Her kindness created ripples she couldn't have imagined. She started a tiny, informal book-sharing library on her front lawn, using an old wooden crate. People would stop by, not just to pick up a book, but to chat with her. She learned about their favorite authors, their jobs, their dreams. The mailman Tom always made a point to stop and talk, sharing stories from his route. Sarah and her kids became regular visitors, often bringing drawings and flowers from their garden. Martha even organized a small neighborhood cleanup day. Armed with trash bags and gloves, a dozen neighbors worked side by side, cleaning up their shared park. That afternoon, they all gathered in Martha's backyard for a potluck, sharing food and stories under the setting sun. Martha's life had transformed. The heavy blanket of loneliness had been lifted, replaced by a vibrant quilt of community and connection. She was no longer an invisible spectator. She was the heart of her neighborhood. Her days were now filled with purpose. She would wake up not to the silence, but to the thought of who she could connect with that day. Would she help Mr. Henderson with his crossword puzzle? Would she teach Leo and Mia how to plant marigolds? Would she bake a pie, just because? The world was no longer gray. It was bursting with color, and she was an artist, painting her days with strokes of kindness, generosity, and love. Her journey teaches us something profound. Loneliness can feel like an insurmountable wall, but sometimes, the way through it is to build a door for someone else. It's in the small acts of reaching out, of sharing a piece of ourselves, that we find our own way back. Martha discovered that the greatest antidote to feeling alone is to make someone else feel less alone. Her purpose wasn't some grand, complicated mission. It was simple, to be kind. And in doing so, she not only changed her own life, but she wove a tapestry of connection that strengthened her entire community. She found that the love you give away is the love that finds its way back to you, filling the empty spaces and making you whole. Thank you for watching Daily Progress Gear. If this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it. Remember, a little kindness can change everything.